we'll go into that once we get into the game. Draft is on our screen, so let's go through the bans first, shall we?
Yep, we absolutely can. We see the Orianna, the Camille by TT, the Renekton, the Ryze, the Pantheon. I like this from TT, recognizing that they don't want to give away that very, very powerful pick over to the side of Beishang.
Yeah, and TT's bans, while they are all meta picks, they're also kind of targeted bans towards WE. I mean, I already talked about the Camille for Breathe. You already talked about the Pantheon for Beishang. And then the Orianna has been the go-to pick for Shanks. It very much is what he feels comfortable on. On the side of TT, though, it means that this Olaf has made it through the bans. I'm going to lock that one in. I will say, I'm a bit surprised to see the Ryze ban. I'm guessing that's a target ban towards Twyla, but not particularly meta right now.
I think when you're bringing in someone like Twyla, you know what he plays, you know what you're kind of afraid of, and you're just going to take it off the board. You don't want to look at it, you don't want to see it, you're just going to go, look, whatever, it doesn't matter, just let get it away, don't have to deal with it. And for Team WE, knowing that the Olaf has been locked in, that does leave open the Kai'Sa, they banned away the Jhin, so they know there's a super safe counter into that, and they're going to take the Zoe as well, so already leaning in towards more of a poke composition on the side of Team WE.
Yeah, and setting Shanks up to have a reasonable mid lane matchup, regardless of what's locked in here. I'd like to see Twyla go for something like the Syndra, which has a good matchup into the Zoe, but can also, most importantly, match the mid lane priority that Zoe will bring to that lane. Over on the side of TT, though, as I said, I'd love to see something like the Syndra. Tristana going to be locked in here with not very many AD carry bans either, so this is going to be an interesting one. I want to see Sam D pop off on this pick.
I would love to see him pop out, and we have seen the likes of Light on LNG popping off in this Tristana. The resets you get on the rocket jump, if you can get snowballing, it just becomes absolutely insane. The only kind of thing I would be worried about is that Tristana needs levels. Her range increases with her levels, and if you can't get levels, if you get put behind, it becomes very, very difficult in that mid game to actually really get into fights and to be an influence for your team.
Yeah, kind of a feast or famine champion, but what I'm expecting from the early game is fairly slow-paced gameplay from both teams, so might give a window for TT here to build some items up first. Obviously, she is a crit 80 carry, so wants to be getting a couple of items before you really want to fight with her, but I think TT should have a window to start to stack those items before skirmishes actually happen. Alistair banned from WE here. Wouldn't be surprised to see them banning away something like Leona as well, or maybe they could pick that for themselves for missing. It's going to be the Thresh ban instead. But most importantly, trying to remove some of the supports that can really set Tristana up with the hard engage.
And I think if you're on the side of Team WE here, if TT don't ban the Leona, I feel like you take it right now. You take the Leona, gives you a hell of a lot of hard engage. It also denies TT for taking it to give over to Teen. This could be the kind of thinking behind them. Of course, Teen has played Leona, I think, twice now so far in the split out of 5 games. So Dolphin looking in, and yep, there it is. Leona locked in, kind of tried and tested.
She's pretty much the best support, or at least highest priority support in the LPL at the minute. Anyway, you deny it from being this Tristana-Leona combo, which can be devastating in the laning phase. And also, it's a super comfort pick for missing. And on top of all of these positives, you also want to save your last pick to have the counter pick for Breathe in the top side, because we all know how great Breathe is. When he's going to be able to play a counter pick into this Ornn as well, he's going to have a lot of space to work with. Chalitza going with this Ornn because, especially with the Tristana, you expect Chalitza probably to be the weak side of the map here. Now I'm curious to see what this support pick will be. Could go with something like a Rakan maybe, if you do want the hard engage. Nautilus also, yeah, would be a slightly tankier option, although I will say Nautilus, not that tanky. So you can find yourself in a bit of trouble there, but overall I actually don't dislike this composition from TT. I feel like they have a solid front to back team fight. It's not the most exciting composition in the world, but it certainly ticks a lot of boxes, and Breathe going with the Gangplank is not something I was necessarily expecting, but it gives him a lot of space in that top lane.
Yeah, I feel like you're looking at the side of Team WE. This is keep TT at arm's length at all times. Very, very difficult to land anything really on top of this Team WE squad. However, like you said, for TT, if they land a Dredge line, if they are able to get on top of AD Carry or the mid laner on the top of Team WE, they will be melted with single target CC and damage. So there are definitely pros and cons to both sides. And if I was to say which one I feel is a little bit easier to execute on, I actually kind of think TT have that in the in their favor.
Yeah, I would definitely say TT's comp is easier. I think WE, this is one of those comps where you can kind of tiptoe around the idea of fighting for a while, trying to get some poke out and, you know, trying to look for an opportunity. But the second a trouble bubble lands, the second you find a window for missing to go in, they have the tools to just burst people out. So expect these fights to be kind of a long build up to the fight, and then suddenly everything explodes and one team just wins immediately.
Yeah, well, both teams locked and loaded. Very much a front-to-back team fight for the side of TT, but more poke and disengage for the side of Team WE. It's definitely still a bit of a mismatch in terms of player skill for the side of Team TT, but they should have plenty of options if they can find those hooks, like you said, if they can find that single-target CC. But we'll have to wait and see how it all goes as we jump onto the Rift for Game 1 of this best-of-3 series.
And once again, to reiterate, as we go into this game, that WE right now are 3-0 at the top of the scoreboard in the LPL. If they win this series, they will have sole possession of first place in the standings. TT, kind of on the opposite end of that scale right now, is when you look at the standings, they're in 15th place, they're 0-2. They really need to get themselves a series win on the board. So far, only a singular game win in the LPL. So for me, looking at TT, I just want to see... I need them to give me a reason to believe in this squad. I want to see some glimmers of what is ahead for these players.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's kind of looking at the squad saying, look, there are moments and you know, opportunities for them, but they haven't been the greatest at taking them. They also have had a little bit of issue with mid-game shot calling, so perhaps Twyla is able to kind of shore up that little bit of a difference. They do find themselves a ward down in this bot side. They're going to keep just invading in onto this blue buff. However, for them, Bayshock started on the opposite side, so it might just be some, you know, vertical jungling as such as both sides of the map get split.
Yeah, you can see, interestingly, Beisheng starting on his chickens here on the Nidalee, and you would expect him to immediately run over towards this blue buff. It has been warded there by Chalitza, so obviously TT will be fully aware that this is happening. I think that they're going to be completely fine to just try and split the map to some extent here. When you look at the top laners as well, you'd expect the way that these two teams want to play is through the bottom side of the map. We already talked about the Tristana being very feast or famine. Kai'Sa is sort of similar. If you don't have the damage when you're flying into these team fights, you're going to be incredibly lackluster. But Ornn typically is a lane that can just sit and farm up, and Gangplank is very much that answer.
Ooh, they get a nice little hook there. Jomon gets flashed down by both AD carry and support. He is ticking down with the Ignite. He's trying to sustain himself up, but he will not be able to survive. Ends up being missing, trading that kill. But importantly for TT, their AD carry got the kill.
Yeah, huge win here for TT. And they got first blood as well. So Sam D now coming back to lane already with a longsword and a dagger. Bless has just been spotted going back into his jungle there. Did walk over a ward as he returned to his half of the map. Beisheng has cleared all of the camps on this top quadrant and will be able to move over towards his top side as well. But just to finish the point I was making about the top laners before, I'm expecting both of these junglers to want to play through that bot side, and that 2v2 that we just saw not only bolsters that in my head, because now it just got really aggressive. There are no summoners available in the bot side aside from missing Splash. This is a jungler's playground on the bottom side of the map right now.
And especially someone like Olaf who could just keep hitting you with undertow after undertow after undertow. So for the side of Team WE, they need to be very, very respectful of the fact that they are playing a vertical game right now. And overall, they just need to try and make sure that doesn't happen again. This is, oh, a Xenoblade lands. They're going to try to jump straight onto Sam D, who's taking so much damage. He needs to back himself away. The W! Oh, Lord. But they're trying to keep pushing onto Team, but the jungler is here. Bless is available. The undertow lands. He flashes all the way on top of Jomon, and they just went too close to the sun, and they lose their wings and are falling straight down.
Yeah, to be honest, like, I love the 2v2 in the first place. I really don't like that they continue to follow. You know that Bless is on the bottom side of the map. You know that Beisheng has already cleared his top side. There is no reason for Bless to be on the top half of the map right here, so especially when Beisheng is currently doing the top scuttle, it's fairly safe to assume that Bless will be doing the bottom scuttle. WE biting off a little bit more than they could chew there, and that was a confidence play. Like, I don't believe that Jomung and Missing didn't know that Bless could respond to this. That was a, let's try and get a kill in the lane. Let's try and win this 2v2.
And this is a more broader topic that we've kind of discussed on a couple of different shows, Bebies, and in private as well, of Jomung. Top AD carry or very much a coin flip? Because it feels like sometimes this guy just pops off and looks immaculate. Looks like he go toe-to-toe with the likes of, you know, Viper and Aiming and, of course, Jackie Love. But then there's plays like this where I'm kind of like, is this going to be an issue for Team WE in the long run? Because this happens more than they probably wanted to.
Yeah, and I think it's less of an issue this split so far from what we've seen. It does feel like this bot lane from WE has become more consistent. I think Missing is playing exceptionally as well. However, obviously this game is not a very good backup to that statement right now. But generally speaking, it's felt more consistent than it has in the past, this split. Last year, though, yeah, you're absolutely right. That Jomung was a bit of a liability for this squad, and it felt like WE had to play around this bottom side to cover that weakness up. And now, especially this year, when we're talking about the fact that Beishang has other lanes to play through, Jomung is going to have to be on better form more consistently, because he's not always going to have that safety net of his team playing through his lane. He's going to have to make sure that he's, you know, on the ball when the team's playing around other lanes.
And for Team WE, we talk about some of the best teams that we've seen from this league, and generally speaking, it's they have an amazing bot lane, they have an amazing top, they have amazing pretty much all around the board. You can't really afford to have a weak side when you want to be on top of what I would argue is the most competitive region in the world. We have to stop myself on the point here is they land the hook and Jomung is dead to rights. Missing will almost certainly be Dove here, but no, he's just a little bit too tanky. He's a Leona at the end of the day, but this is just not going well for Team WE, but fantastic for TT. Sam D is getting the exact same start we wanted to see for him on this Tristana.
And he's a Tristana, so he'll get at least one turret plate here. There's potential for more, but I think he does need to be careful, because Missing can get a kill here, actually.
Very close. The cleanse been used, and the ignite goes down. Tick, tick, boom. Sam D just overstaying a little bit for that turret plate and gets punished pretty hard. Nice play from Missing.
You gotta praise the sun. That's all I could say about that one. You can tell Sam D has not played Dark Souls. He doesn't know about Solaire. He didn't know that was coming. You gotta respect Leona. She has a lot of damage. She's real strong right now. And when Ignite's available, you can't walk that close. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, you gotta be respectful. I feel like both AD carries are just not respecting the full-on engage and early game damage you get from a Nautilus and or Leona. So both sides feeling like they're maybe a little bit more powerful than they should be. And that does end up kind of equaling the gold. The gold's really not gone anywhere. TT do have a kill advantage. They took that Ocean Drake as well, so they've got that stacking for them. Twyla, a little bit behind in this mid lane. It's always kind of difficult to see how the Syndra versus Zoe matchup will go, but for Shanks, this is positive for him. But I want to see what Beishang could do, because actually someone in this early game we haven't really spoken about because he hasn't really done anything has been Beishang. He's kind of just been farming on his own, and he's actually behind on farm despite Bless having ganked bot almost twice now.
Yeah, Beishang having a bit of a slower start. Certainly not the way that he wanted to be playing this game. But really, really nice invade early on from Bless and the gang on that bot side to take away the blue buff and to split the map. And it's meant that Beishang has just been, unfortunately, not really able to get much done for himself. One person I do want to talk about, though, is Teen, actually, on this bottom side. Although I'll hold that thought just because I've got Bless hanging around mid lane here.
Now there's a potential for a scout of the week. Triple bubble lands just to dissuade anything. Bless has to keep himself here, but as that happens in the mid lane, the bot lane goes absolutely ham. Solar Flare lands on the Teen, who misses the dredge line. They are not focusing on the Sam D at all because they know they can kill off this support, but a great charge there from Sam D. Almost takes down Jomung. I like the idea. Tried to misposition the Kai'Sa. Doesn't quite work out for them. And now Chalita's in a lot of trouble. He has to flash. There's the Cannon Barrage, and that's going to be an easy, quick kill for Breathe in the top side. Team WE seem to have woken up and come to life.
Really, really good stuff from WE. And this was incredibly important that they stopped the snowball in that bottom lane. Actually, really well played by Sam D. Almost managed to turn that one around.
Oh, no, it's a bait. It's a bait. It's a bait. They knew it. They had the Leona in the pocket. And, oh, Sam D, he got greedy. He saw blood in the water. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Look, I actually really respect this from Sam D. This is the Tristana mentality. This is how you got to play when you play Tristana. He thought that he could sneak it at the end of the recall, was hoping that Missing had finished his recall earlier. I'm actually not sure if he wins that 1v1 at that point, because I don't think his jump procced on the E. So at that point, it's Hail of Blades versus Hail of Blades. It's pretty up in the air, to be brutally honest. But look, when you're playing Tristana, I think this is the way that you have to play the game. I respect the attempt, because even if you can't get the kill, so long as you can get your bomb off, you can usually jump out. So I actually like that level of aggression. I think a lot of people don't necessarily agree with that level of aggression, but I like players that want to make it happen like that.
An A for effort. I think that's it's like one of those teachers you can see a student trying really hard. And it's just like I don't want to criticize you, even though you're wrong, but an attempt was made, as you said so rightly.
I just love that this bot lane isn't anything to do with junglers. These guys just want to fight, man. This is so much fun to watch. And with a Kai'Sa, with a Tristana, like, these are champions that want to be fighting in the early game. You don't necessarily... I mean, I talked about Tristana being this crit 80 carry that later on, once you got a few items, then you'd be fighting for dragons and things. But if you can get the ball rolling and speed those items up in lane, the bomb does insane damage. The burst damage is absolutely bonkers. Now, unfortunately, as I was going to talk about Teen, he did get caught out and then he missed his hook on the tower. Very unlucky. But one thing I do want to mention about Teen is that this is a guy that was on JDG's academy team for a couple of years. This guy was training under Lumao. So you can kind of see that aggression that you expect from Lumao in the laning phase shining through a little bit in this game and the way that these guys are playing the 2v2. And his mechanics have been pretty on point aside from the escape. So Teen is one of the players on the squad that we don't know that much about. He's not a well-known player, but there's potential there. In the meantime, in the top side, though.
Yeah, and actually something we didn't really get to talk about as much because there's just so much action in this bot lane is that with the lanes kind of set up as such, we are seeing Bless just hover towards this bot side a lot more. Solar Flare goes down, lands onto Teen. Yeah, I'm going to try and go on a Missing, however. Can only tank so much. They do have to use themselves the explosive charge, and this is kind of the bot lane. They just want to keep going. They want to keep fighting. They don't want to try and, give us time to analyze anything. They just want to keep getting at each other's throats.
I love watching Missing play. Here we go. Fight's not over.
So fight is not over. The dragon has been started down to about half HP. It is the Cloud Dragon, so it is actually quite hard to solo out. There's a lot of single target DPS. Need to be very careful how much you actually tank up this. Down to 1500. They are going to pop down the Ragnarok. It will be secured by TT. And they get themselves 2 dragons, get themselves out. Nicely done there by TT. Get themselves that dragon stacking. Now they're only 2 drakes away from a potential Infernal Soul.
Yeah, good little start here from TT. They do get it. It was a little dicey, kind of a 50-50 smite, honestly, but they get it at the end. As Sam D manages to dodge that Void Seeker there. But yeah, man, I love watching Missing play. There are 3 players underneath the tower, and Missing's like 2v3. I like those odds. Just goes in with the ult immediately. This is my kind of support player. And it's so much fun to, like I said before, I'm having so much fun just watching this 2v2.
Oh, it's now a 2v2, but Blessed, it might be a 3v3. He does miss his undertow, so there's no real follow-up there. The triple bubble does not land on the Teen, so everybody backs themselves away. And overall, it still ends up, we calm down. We can breathe for 2 minutes because it is all action all the time. Oh yeah, sure he is. He's having a fine time. He's got 1 kill and he's got 20 CS up with his Essence Reaver as his first item. So overall, it is still advantage to Team WE, but TT, they're not letting this one go. They want this tower in the bot lane. They want all the gold they can possibly get, and they want to have it now.
Yeah, but well played by Beishang here. He reads the play. He's able to match on the bottom side of the map. That CS discrepancy we saw before is pretty much diminished entirely. Bless will be rooted. They don't have any more follow-up. That's the long-range burst we were talking about before, though. When we said in the draft, we've got a Nidalee here, we've got a Zoe here. That's that long-range burst.
And again, very much in favor of Team W right now, and I feel like this gold lead, yes, it's only just under 2,000, but it just becomes so much more difficult for them to make these, you know, big plays coming out overall once they get the items onto the Gangplank, onto the Zoe, who can just keep you at arm's length at all times. You'll need to try and catch someone out with the, you know, Twyla Syndra or with the Ornhorn from Chalitza. There are opportunities for you, but you need to make it happen yourself. You can't play reactive here if you're on TT.
Yeah, taking a look at some of the items that are coming in, interestingly, we are seeing Jomon go for the Kraken Slayer, not the Gale Force here. This is more of a consistent damage build, looking towards team fights in the later game, which is fairly understandable when you consider the composition that he's playing up against. They do want to go for that front-to-back fight. Missing wants to 1v1 Sam D, I guess. Actually gonna force out.
He is 202. Like he's a big support.
Look, like I said, I love watching Missing. This guy is not afraid of anything. Yeah, one thing I do want to point out at the scoreboard though, Beishrang has actually gone for the Night Harvest here. I was hoping that we would get to see the Moonstaff build where you go for the Moonstone Renewer and the Staff of Flowing Water. It's incredibly strong on AP junglers right now. We're not going to see that. He's just going for the pure damage build. LPL's often not on the same page as other regions when it comes to item builds, so I can't say I'm that surprised. I can say I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, I kind of feel you on that one as well. It's surprised, or not surprised, but definitely still disappointed is the best way you can put it there. And overall, it still feels like TW are the ones dictating the pace right now. Yes, Sam D and Teen had the early game in that bot side, but now with you, as you can see, Missing roaming around the map with Beishan, they have this duo of damage and CC that you just have to respect, you have to back away from. That gives Jomong a lot of free time just to waste away these minions in the bot side. And again, we're seeing TT just their early game is fine, but as this mid game creeps slowly closer and closer, they kind of lose themselves a little bit. They don't really know where they want to go with it.
Yeah, there's a bit of insanity going on as well, where we've just seen TT pick up the second Herald now. They've had both of these Rift Heralds, and yet WE is the only team that's actually managed to take a tower so far this game. We just saw Jomong finish that one off. And when you look at the gold difference between the two teams now, it's already 3,000 in favor of WE, partly in thanks to that first tower, but also partly in thanks to the kills that have been going over with some bounties, with some tower plays as well.
What's your favorite color, Joe?
Well, that's a tough question. Is that green or orange? I'm kind of torn on the two.
Very Irish of you. Well, I'm going to have to cut you off there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess it is.
As we're going to see a bit of a gank now. I thought there was nothing going to happen, but now Missing has been caught out, and Missing has been killed, but Sam D being jumped on by Jomong, and then he saves Jomong with the ult back out of tower range. Shanks trying to see if he can find and fish for something here. This is the problem when you're going into Pokemon. Like you said, one paddle star, one trouble bubble, one spear. It could all go very, very wrong. They have got the teleport on Breathe, who is just sitting around the base. He did have a reset. He's got himself his Immortal Shield Bow now. And overall, 1-for-1, not the worst thing in the world for the side of Team WE, but just as the dragon spawns means that TT cannot fight for this.
And I want to go back to something we talked about before with this bottom lane from WE. And first off, hey, look, it's 15 to 20 minutes and the third Drake is up. WE are forcing fights. Who could have predicted this? But with this bottom lane from WE, Jomong is so damn aggressive. And this is what we were talking about when we were saying how, you know, WE last year played around this bot lane a lot to stop them from going too aggressive and ending up dying. That aggression has not lessened from this bot side of WE. And I love that Jomong has the confidence to just go 1v1 me, bro, in the mid lane. Just take on Sam D. And this Kai'Sa Tristana matchup, it's all about who gets the jump on who.
Yeah, this is just how the fight kind of started out here. It is a straight up Missing getting caught, but then Sam D's just not looking at the mid, not looking around him, and he gets himself caught. So what could have been a fantastic, you know, third dragon effectively for the side of TT as they're taking down Missing. They would have had priority over the Drake. They then lose Sam D to just honestly an unforced error.
Yeah, Sam D looking at the fight didn't realize that Jomong would be in a mirrored position to him. And importantly as well, with that 1v1, when we're talking about the items as they were, both with the Kraken Slayer, both with half of their next item, there was a Serrated Dirk there for Jomong and a Zeal for Sam D. In that situation, if there is a minion wave nearby, I give it over to Sam D because his bomb doesn't care if there's minions nearby. Whereas Jomung needs that isolated Q to win. There were no minions. There was a full isolated Q. It did like almost half of Sam D's health. And at that point, there's no way to fight back. So now with Flash on cooldown as well, it means that TT need to be a little cautious about the fights that they take. And I wouldn't be too surprised if WE are able to control the bottom half of the map now, especially since they already got that bot tier 1 and look towards that next Drake in 3 minutes. But TT want to answer in the mid lane here with a Herald.
Yep, full commitment to the Herald in the mid lane. They're going to get that turret down to about half HP, pop down an explosive bomb as well. And again, they just keep going for these small little plays. TT just try to shore up the mid-game shot calling, and this is where it starts to get a little scary now, because 3,500 gold at this stage is significant, but not that significant. You're not a million miles away from being able to come back into this game. You just need to play it properly. You can't be getting caught out. You cannot be giving away free kills or free objectives. Ooh, rocket jump is very much needed here from Sam D. Now, he does not have that, and that's a very relatively long cooldown that he doesn't have for at least another couple of seconds. They had to be careful of the dive.
Yeah, getting caught by a trouble bubble there. And the reason that was so tense on the trouble bubble is because Chalitza had to move down to the bottom side of the map. There was a massive wave crashing into the tier 2. So there was a small window there where WE can essentially find a fight with TT where TT don't have their front line available. Because, like I said before, Nautilus, not that tanky, especially when you look at the items he currently has. Really, really not a massive brick wall. So if WE could have found an opportunity off the back of a bubble, had that bubble hit on pretty much anyone else aside from maybe the Olaf, that could have been a kill, and that could have snowballed into something like a tower in the top lane or the mid lane.
Well, we'll see what TT can do. Yeah, might lead to a tower in the mid lane. Bless forced to Ragnarok his way out of that tower because he was just getting poked down, and this is the thing. This is the problem we're seeing. Twyla now in a little bit of trouble. Beishang perfectly positioned to pounce on top of him, and that could be a 22-minute Baron right now because they know that Bless had to go back.
Yeah, and also Bless doesn't have Ragnarok, so it's incredibly hard for him to face check in. There's a massive amount of CC on this squad from WE with the trouble bubble, with everything from Leona. It's really, really difficult for TT to contest this Baron. It's down to half. Now, bear in mind, Missing's taken a lot of damage for this one. This squad is taking a while. Here they come.
There we go. The Ornhorn comes down. Those with the cannon barrage. It's perfectly placed, though, right on that ramp, so they know they can just keep peppering down these health bars. Shanks flashes forward with a stolen flash. Another stolen flash. Shanks just keep pushing forward and forward and forward. They pick themselves up. 2 more kills. Twyla respawns to find his team at a 3v5 advantage, and they can just go back to the Baron.
Yeah, they can just rinse and repeat on this one. Bear in mind, they have a Nidalee with blue buff, so there's a good amount of sustain in there. This is where the Moonstaff build would have been absolutely insane. The sustain that it offers in these kind of situations is bonkers. But here we go. Ragnarok already used by Bless, but there's no way in. Like, oh my god, Shanks just finishes them off. Shanks is playing with confidence this game. I love it.
This is the problem when a poke comp gets ahead. You can't run into them because your health bar gets deleted before you get anywhere close. Baron to the side of Team WE. A 7,000 gold lead to Team WE, yes. And they will be able to pick up the Infernal Drake. So right now, this all came off of one opportunistic pick.
Yep. And again, this is why we love Beishang, right? A little bit disrespectful from Twyla to be just face-checking into the jungle like that alone. But then this was an engage that was forced, right? TT don't have an option but to check this. If they don't try and force the fight here, they will lose Baron, and you know WE is going to take control of the map from that point on. So, unfortunately, for Teen and for Chalitza, they are the guys that have to be the front line and have to go and do that face check. So they're the guys that end up going down there. Not really individual mistakes, more like WE forcing a situation where TT have... They either make a bad decision or they make a bad decision. They either just give up the Baron for free or they contest the Baron and lose a fight because they know that they're... I mean, look at the scoreboard. 7,000 gold down right now when it comes to item spikes as well. You've now got a Zoe that's got the Horizon Focus finished off. That's a monumental amount of damage follow-up if a Trouble Bubble lands.
It feels like it's all Team WE right now, but there are Still avenues for TT to get back into this. You have a hell of a lot of bursts on your Syndra, as well as on the Tristana, who's now sitting on 2.5 items. Will almost have the 3rd crit item available to her very, very shortly. So again, it's not the end of the world, and it does become a little easier as later goes on for TT just to find someone out of positions. So it kind of relies on WE just not giving them those opportunities. So I want to see how TWE use this. I want to see them how they push forward. Sam D, he's going to have his blue suede shoes on because he needs to be dancing around these skill shots.
Yeah, and I mean, the really scary thing, right, with this team, while they have a Baron buff as well, like, how on earth do you survive this siege? They have so much long-range poke. They have so much ability to finish off these towers. You have a Gangplank that is more than happy to be off on the side lane. Jomung getting chased down, but the team is here.
Yeah, they get the teleport, though, out of Shanks, so summoner earned for a ultimate use from team.
Yeah.
So you'll take that. Honestly, at this stage, you'll take anything.
The depressing thing for TT is you don't even really get that because it's unsealed spellbook.
Yeah, you don't even really get it, but we'll have to talk about that in a quick moment. As you can see, the Team WE are done with this game. They're done with this fight. TT thought they had an opportunity to take some members out, and with the Solar Flare going down, it forces Twyla to flash away. But Jomung, after having a questionable early game, is now trying to redeem himself by taking out the mid laner of TT. Ooh. Shanks is going to be the one to take him down. 3-0-4 on this Zoe. They've got 10 seconds left of the Baron buff. It's going to be plenty of time for them to push in and at least take this inhibitor.
And this feels like WE are having a bit of fun in these fights, doesn't it? This doesn't feel like regimented, clear 5v5 team fighting. This is a bit of dancing back and forth. This is a bit of Jomung trying to 1v1 Twyla. It's Shanks double flashing to then use his portal and then throw the trouble bubble through the wall to finish Twyla off. Like, this is WE flexing a little bit on the Rift and feeling good about their place in the standings, as they rightly should.
Yeah, we see how this fight starts. Actually, just Shanks just going in and straight up half-healthing 2 members of TT.
And it's an incredibly aggressive play from the Zoe because you do misposition yourself automatically when you go for the portal. They know where you're going to be in a second, but he has such a strong team. He's so far ahead that he knows he can pull that off when he's got the Zhonya's in his pocket, or the Hourglass in his pocket. So he's able to be as aggressive as he really wants to. And we talked about the AD carries earlier. Jomung's on 3 items at this point. He's got the Hurricane, so he's at maximum team fight capability. He's going to be shredding through these health bars. And because he's gone for that Kraken Slayer build as well, the front line in Chalitza really can't survive that long against this squad. So there's a lot of positives going the way of WE. And we haven't even talked about Breathe all game. Breathe is a 3-item Gangplank at this point. He's got an IE, he's got an Essence Reaver. Like, he hasn't needed to be a threat all game, but now we're getting towards Teamfight Gangplank, which is a massive threat. As if TT didn't have enough things going against them right now, Breathe is also massive.
Oh, Jomung, he wants revenge. Sam D, rocket jumps out, keeps himself alive, but just barely. Redemption not going to be enough, but the Cannon Barrage might throw in all the globals there onto them on the side of TT, and they just...
There is no escape.
No, there is no escape.
You cannot get away. There's a Redemption, there's a Cannon Barrage, calling in support from the Pirates over in the Bay. Like, what can you do against this?
I think you have to just try and do one last stand, because this inhibitor is almost certainly going to fall. You can see Twyla just fishing for a Scatter the Weak to land onto a carry. Missing is not that carry. Solar Flare goes down. They know that Twyla has no flash, so they're trying to keep him away. They are going to burn a hell of a lot of summoners there onto Shanks, who has to use his cleanse and his flash, but they're too far ahead. There's too many minions. There's too many problems for them to deal with. Team WE, this is going to be a interesting, but at the same time, sporadic win for them, as they're now just trying to pad their KDAs, pad their stats. They can just jump in on top of these turrets and Nexus whenever they feel like it.
Yeah, the health bars are very low, but I think the gold lead is enough. We'll see.
Jomung is still alive, and unfortunately for Zai TT, the damage dealers are not. They have Twyla dead and Sam D dead, so Nexus turrets are down. All inhibitors did fall. That is game 1 in 29 minutes to Team WE.
Yeah, beautiful stuff out from WE. This is an expected win, right? When you look at these two teams on their standings, you should expect WE to be a heavy favorite. The way that WE played this game as well, I really like. They saw the Ornn on the top side. They're like, we're just going to throw a gangplank up there so we can complete